The sky turned red the day the bombs fell. Buildings that once stood proud now lay in broken pieces. Smoke covered the sun. The city of Meridia was gone. Among the wreckage, a lone human moved carefully, his boots crunching over shattered glass. And metal. His name was Ryan Cole, a rescue engineer. He had stayed behind to search for survivors when the evacuation transports left. He didn't care that others had given up. Someone might still be alive. And Ryan didn't leave people behind. The air was heavy with silence and ash. Every step Ryan took echoed like thunder. His scanner blinked weakly, then picked up a faint life signal under the rubble of an old trade hub. His eyes narrowed. It was deep, almost completely buried. But alive. He dropped his pack and began clearing debris with careful hands. Steel beams groaned above him. Any wrong move could cause another collapse. But Ryan didn't stop. His fingers bled from sharp edges. Sweat rolled down his face. The scanner beeped again, stronger now. He finally reached a small pocket of space beneath the wreckage. In the darkness something moved. A soft, scared voice spoke in a language he didn't know. Glowing eyes stared back at him. She had fur like midnight, ears like a feline, and a long, twitching tail. She looked young, frightened, but unharmed. Ryan held up both hands, showing he meant no harm. The creature, no, the girl, backed away. Slightly, then stopped. Her eyes stayed locked with his. He didn't understand her words, but he understood her fear. Gently, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a thermal blanket. She didn't move. He placed the blanket on the ground between them, then slowly backed away. She watched him, then crawled forward and touched it. Her hands trembled. Ryan offered her water. She sniffed it, then took a slow sip. Her ears perked up. She was beginning to trust him. Hours passed as he carefully cleared a path. She didn't speak again, only watched. When the final beam was moved, daylight broke through. Rand stood, reaching out a hand. She hesitated, then crawled out into the light. Her clothes were torn. Her small frame was bruised. But she stood tall. The girl looked at the ruins around her, then at Ryan. He pointed toward the path he came from, signaling it was safe. She followed Dot as they walked back through the shattered city. Ryan noticed something strange. She never walked more than a few feet from him. When he stopped, she stopped. When he checked his scanner, she crouched close beside him. Once, a loud crack echoed from a fallen building. She jumped, grabbing his arm tightly. Ryan looked down. Her hands were shaking again. He gave her a soft nod. "It's all right. I got you." She didn't understand the words, but the tone, the calmness, it settled her. When night came, they set up shelter inside a half-destroyed bunker. Ryan gave her a piece of protein bar. She ate quietly, her tail curling beside her. Then she curled up next to him, not touching, but close enough that he felt her warmth. Ryan looked at her again. Who was she? Where did she come from? Was she the last of her kind too? As sleep tried to pull him under, he whispered to no one. "What are you, little one?" She didn't answer. But when he shifted away, she inched closer again. She wasn't going to leave his side. Ryan woke before the sun rose. The city was still silent, except for the soft crackling of fire in the distance. He sat up carefully, not wanting to wake her. But the moment he moved, her eyes opened. She had been watching him all night. Her ears twitched slightly as she sat up beside him. Her fur was still dusty, but her golden eyes were alert now, sharp, curious. Ryan gave a tired smile and handed her a bottle of water. She took it without fear this time. He still didn't know her name. When he pointed to himself and said, "Ryan," she tilted her head and then lightly touched her chest. "Karina," she whispered, her voice soft and smooth like wind through grass. Ryan repeated it, slowly. "Karina," she blinked and gave a tiny nod. He smiled. "Nice to meet you, Karina." Their connection was growing, no shared language, but the silence between them felt like understanding. He pulled out a small hollow map. The nearest outpost was nearly 12 miles east, past a collapsed district. It wouldn't be easy. Ryan folded the map, then pointed east. "We go," he said, motioning forward. Karina looked around nervously but gave a nod. She followed him again, always close, always alert. As they crossed the ruins, Ryan noticed the change in Karina. She wasn't just scared now, she was listening, sensing. Her ears twitched at the slightest sound, and once, when he stepped too close to a cracked surface, she gently pulled his arm away before it collapsed. She was watching out for him too. At midday, they passed through a fallen government dome. Inside, they found a few power cells, 2 ration bars, and a medical kit. Ryan smiled at the small win, but Karina remained quiet. Her eyes locked on a wall covered in strange marks, claw patterns, and scorched writing. She walked to them, reached out, and touched a small symbol. Her ears dropped slightly. Her body TENSED. It meant something to her. Ryan walked over and gently touched her shoulder. She didn't pull away, but she didn't speak either. After a moment, she turned and walked ahead, faster now. Something had changed. That night, they made camp near an old transit tunnel. As Ryan tried to patch a small cut on his arm, Karina reached into the medical kit and gently took over. Her hands were soft but skilled. She cleaned the wound with ease, applied a bandage, and tied it neatly. Ryan raised an eyebrow. "You've done this before." Karina didn't reply. She only glanced at him and gave a small shrug. Then she looked away. Ryan leaned against the wall, feeling the cold stone behind him. "You're not just some lost girl, are you?" he whispered. She didn't answer. But in the firelight, he saw something glimmer on her neck. A small pendant, hidden beneath the torn collar of her suit. It looked like a broken insignia medal with 2 crossed stars. Military? Ryan didn't ask. Not yet. In the middle of the night, a distant howl broke the silence. Ryan woke instantly, grabbing his scanner. Karina was already awake, crouched low, ears back, eyes wide. Ryan scanned quickly. Movement, 4-legged fast, closing in. Karina made a sharp sound and pointed to a small alcove in the wall. Ryan grabbed his gear and followed. They squeezed inside as the sound grew louder. Then came the creature. Its eyes glowed in the dark. Its skin shimmered like cracked rock. Its claws scratched the floor, sniffing, searching. Ryan held his breath. Karina pressed close to him, her hand on his chest, holding him still. The beast paused, sniffed again, then slowly turned away. When the sound faded, they waited 10 more minutes before crawling out. Ryan looked at her. He knew it was hunting. Karina nodded once. "You've faced those things before." She didn't answer. But her silence said enough. They didn't sleep again that night. By morning, they were already walking. The ruins seemed quieter now, but not safer. Ryan noticed Karina checking rooftops, avoiding narrow paths, even using hand signals. She moved like a scout, more than just a survivor. They reached a ridge by noon. From there, Ryan could see the communications tower of the outpost in the distance. But Karina wasn't looking at that. Her eyes were locked on something far behind. Them, a trail in the dust. They were being followed, and whoever it was, wasn't human. The footsteps in the dust were fresh, deep, heavy, and moving fast. Ryan crouched, scanning the trail behind them. Whoever was following had been gaining ground. His scanner picked up faint pulses, 3 signals, non-human, heavily armed. Karina's tail stiffened. Her ears twitched as she listened to the wind. Then she made a low gesture with her hand and pointed toward a cracked tunnel entrance half buried under stone. She wanted to go underground. Ryan looked at the sky. The outpost tower was visible, maybe a few hours away on foot. But if they ran across open ground now, they'd be spotted. He nodded and followed her lead. Inside the tunnel, it was damp and cold. Dust floated in the weak light from Ryan's wrist lamp. The air smelled like rust and mold. Pipes ran along the walls, and broken rails hinted that this had once been a cargo route. Karina walked ahead with silent steps, tail low and ears alert. She moved like a shadow. Ryan stayed close behind, trusting her instincts now more than ever. Then they heard it. A soft mechanical whir. Ryan froze. Karina held up a hand, motioning him to stay still. A second later, something slithered down from the ceiling, an old recon drone. It hovered quietly, scanning, then moved away down. Another branch of the tunnel. Still active? Ryan whispered. Karina looked at him and made a quick, slicing motion across her neck with 2 fingers. Dangerous. They moved slowly, deeper into the tunnel, avoiding noise. At one point, Karina stopped and placed her hand on the wall. Her eyes closed. She tilted her head and then pointed left away from the main path. How do you know? Ryan asked softly. She tapped her head once. Then her ears. She could hear vibrations. They turned left. Minutes later, the tunnel above them cracked loudly. Dust rained down. The roof of the main corridor collapsed. If they hadn't turned, they would have been crushed. Ryan stared at her. You just saved both of us. Karina didn't smile. She only looked at him with serious eyes and kept walking. Soon, they came to a small maintenance room. Inside were old maps, toolkits, and a dusty console with backup power. Ryan wiped the screen and powered it up. Static flickered before a map of the area blinked to life. The outpost was closer than he thought, only 2 miles from their current location. Karina sat beside the door, watching the hallway. She didn't rest. Ryan could see something shifting in her expression, memories maybe, or fear she wouldn't show. You were trained, he said finally. Weren't you? She looked at him, silent. Then she reached into her suit and pulled out the broken insignia again. She pressed a button at the back. A small hologram flickered to life. It showed Karina in a sleek military uniform, standing beside 2 others like her, one older, one male. They all had matching PEND, family. Then the hologram shifted to an explosion shaking the ground. Debris flying, the screams of civilians. Ryan recognized the place. It was the trade dome where he found her. She had been stationed there. Looked at her, surprised. You were a soldier when the war started, she nodded. What happened? She tapped her pendant again. The image froze on the explosion. Then she looked down. They didn't survive. She was the only one left. Ryan stood slowly and walked over. He knelt in front of her and gently placed a hand over hers. She didn't move away. For the first time, he saw her blink back tears. You're not alone anymore, he said softly. Karina looked up at him, and for the first time since they met, she smiled. Just a little. But it was real. Their moment was interrupted by the sudden roar of gunfire outside the tunnel. Echoes boomed through the steel walls. Ryan's scanner lit up 3 targets, closing in fast. They'd found them. Karina was already moving, grabbing the small tool pack and checking her side blade. She handed Ryan a shock baton she had recharged earlier. Ryan nodded. We run. Or fight. Karina gave a slow, determined nod and pointed forward. They would run, but only long enough to survive. As they darted through the tunnels, gunshots rang out behind them. Sparks flew. Karina twisted through the tight corridors, leading them with perfect memory of the old maintenance paths. They burst out through a hidden exit beneath a collapsed highway. Ahead stood the outpost, fences down, gates broken, but the antenna still flashing. Hope. But behind them, heavy boots hit the ground. The hunters had arrived. The wind howled across the broken plain. Ryan and Karina ran toward the outpost, their shadows stretching long in the fading light. The antenna blinked like a distant heartbeat. Hope was close, but danger was closer. The ground behind them trembled. Loud stomps followed. Shouts in. A rough alien tongue echoed through the ruins. Ryan turned for a second and saw the first one. Tall, covered in black armor, face hidden under a smooth mask. Its weapon glowed with red light. Karina didn't slow down. She grabbed Ryan's arm and pulled him toward a side path. Just as a plasma bolt struck the ground behind them, dirt exploded. Ryan hit the ground hard. Karina jumped, landed, rolled, and came up ready. She tossed something small toward the enemy. It clicked once, and then a wall of smoke erupted behind them. The pursuers yelled, confused. Ryan coughed and stood. You carry smoke bombs? Too. Karina gave a half smile. Then she pointed to the gate ahead. Go. The outpost was quiet as they rushed in. Most of the buildings were damaged, but Ryan's eyes locked on the main tower. If the antenna still worked, he could send a distress signal. Inside, broken. Tech sparked and flickered. He climbed the stairs two at a time while Karina stayed below, guarding the entrance. He reached the top room, powered up the console, and typed fast. Emergency signal, human survivor. One alien civilian. Under pursuit, request extraction. He hit send. The signal blinked. Terrain SMITTING, but then he heard something. Karina's voice, shouting. Followed by a crash. Ryan grabbed the baton and ran back down. At the bottom of the tower, Karina fought two armored figures. Her blade flashed. She moved like lightning, ducking, spinning, striking. But there were too many. Ryan jumped in, striking one in the leg. The shock made the alien stumble. Karina used the moment and slashed its arm. Sparks flew. The second one charged. Karina yelled a warning. Ryan dodged too late. The alien slammed into him, knocking him back into a wall. Pain shot through his side. He fell dazed. Karina leapt forward, blocking the next blow. Her blade clashed against the enemy's weapon. Sparks lit the air. She held her ground, pushing with all her strength. Then came a sound from behind the enemy metal feet, heavier than the others. A third figure stepped in, larger, darker armor. Its mask bore a single red mark. It looked at Karina and spoke. Karina. Of Cradle, you are property now. She froze. The voice was cold, sharp, her ears flattened. Her tail curled low. Ryan tried to stand confused. What's he talking about? The large figure stepped closer. She was taken before the treaty fell. She belongs to the Collector now. She escaped with stolen knowledge. Ryan's eyes widened. He looked at Karina. Is this true? She didn't answer, but her silence was enough. The figure raised his weapon. You will both return, or you will die here. Karina stepped in front of Ryan, her blade low. Her body shaking, but not from fear. From rage. No, she said softly. Not again. She dashed forward. Fast, too fast for the armored giant. She ducked his first strike, then stabbed upward into his side. The blade sparked but didn't break the armor. He growled and grabbed her by the arm, lifting her like a doll. Ryan ran in with the baton, slamming it into the back of the giant's knee. The shock made him stumble. Karina twisted and dropped down, landing on her feet. They fought side by side. Ryan blocked a swing. Karina slashed across the other side. Together, they confused the enemy, forced him to back up. Then Ryan saw the fuel tank on the enemy's belt. Karina! He shouted, pointing. She understood instantly. She feinted a strike to the chest, then ducked low and drove her blade into the tank. There was a hiss of gas. Sparks flew. The enemy screamed and stumbled backward. Run! Ryan shouted. They ran from the tower just as the tank exploded. Fire lit the sky behind them. They didn't stop running until the edge of the outpost. Ryan gasped for breath. What did he mean? Property? Stolen knowledge? Karina looked away. Then slowly, she sat on a rock and opened her pendant again. This time, the hologram showed a different image. Schematics. A map, symbols from deep space, a secret route, a hidden lab. Human symbols mixed with alien. Ryan stared. You stole this? Karina shook her head. Escaped with it. Why? She looked at him, serious. To stop what's coming. The sky above the ruined outpost turned a soft orange. Smoke from the earlier explosion still drifted through the air. Ryan stood silently, watching Karina as she studied the hologram dot. It showed more than a map now. One by one, strange alien symbols flashed across the air, shapes Ryan didn't recognize. Then, the image shifted to show a structure floating in deep space. A ring-shaped station, enormous, surrounded by a glowing field. Karina pointed at it. They call it the Cradle, she said quietly. Ryan frowned. What is it? She tapped a series of glyphs on the side of the device. The image zoomed in rows of chambers, pods, blinking lights. Then it focused on something even more strange. Inside the station, there were humans, unmoving. Stored. Ryan stared. That's impossible. We didn't build this. Karina shook her head. They did. Before the war. Ryan tried to understand. So those soldiers, the ones chasing us, they're trying to protect this thing. No, Karina whispered. They're trying to finish it. She stood up and walked a few steps away, her tail flicking behind her. Her voice was tight. My people were forced to help them build it. A place to trap humans, study them, copy them, drain what made them strong. Ryan felt a cold chill run down his back. That's why they want you. You escaped with this proof. Karina nodded. And with something worse. She pressed the pendant again. The image changed. It showed a simulation, a line moving across a star map. Ryan watched as star systems blinked and dimmed behind it. That's the collector's next route, she said. Once the Cradle is done, they'll activate it and use it as a control center. Ryan looked at her. Control what? She turned to him. The rest of your kind. He was silent. His thoughts raced. If what she said was true, then this was no longer about survival. This was a warning. A message that needed to reach the human fleet. He looked up at the still flashing antenna. I sent a signal earlier. But we don't know if anyone heard it. Karina shook her head. It won't be enough. You need to deliver this in person. To someone who will believe. Then we'll go to the nearest command base, Ryan said firmly. Karina's ears flicked. It's far, and the skies are watched. Ryan smiled. Then we stay low. Before they could leave, the scanner on Ryan's wrist blinked red. He checked. No. Multiple heat signatures, large, moving fast. They're coming back. He whispered. Karina grabbed her gear and turned toward the rear exit of the outpost. This way. They moved through rubble and collapsed storage units until they reached a hidden tunnel beneath the outpost. It led downward, deeper than expected, into a forgotten part of the complex. Ryan lit a small flare. Old storage crates and equipment lined the walls. Karina walked ahead, her steps slow and careful. Then she stopped. She crouched, picked up a broken metal tag. Ryan leaned over her shoulder. It was a nameplate. Test subject. Human. Phase 3 hybrid trials. Karina stared at it. This outpost was used for early testing, she said, voice shaking. They were already experimenting here years ago. Ryan's fists clenched. That means they've been planning this longer than anyone knew. Karina nodded. At the far end of the tunnel, they found a blast door. Ryan used the backup power cell to open it. Inside was a small launch pod, still functional. Dusty but intact. Ryan stared at it, surprised. You think this can get us out? Karina stepped inside and checked the systems. She nodded. Short range only, but enough to get past the outer zone. Then we use it, Ryan said. We reach a human base, deliver the data, expose the truth. Karina hesitated. Ryan noticed. What is it? She looked at him quietly. Once we launch, they will find us. They will follow. Ryan stepped closer. Let them know we're not afraid. Karina finally smiled. You fight like one of us. He laughed. You mean stubborn and undertrained? No, she said, tail swaying. I mean brave. Ryan checked the pod's controls. The engine hummed softly. Then let's fly. They closed the hatch. The engines powered up. As the pod began to rise, Karina looked back through the small window at the burning horizon. I escaped alone the first time, she whispered. But not this time. Ryan looked at her. No, this time we finish what you started. And together, they left the ruins behind. The launch pod soared through the upper clouds, its engines humming low but strong. Ryan sat in the pilot's seat, watching the landscape. Far below, Karina sat beside him, her eyes focused on the scanner. The pod had just enough power to cross the border into the Allied human sector. But they weren't alone. Ryan looked at the radar again. A red dot had appeared minutes ago, and it was getting closer. They found us, he said. Karina gave a slow nod. They will not let us leave with the truth. Ryan gripped the controls tighter. Then we outrun them. But the red dot moved too fast. Within minutes, a shadow appeared in the clouds behind them, a black Hunter-class vessel, sleek and armed. Brace, Ryan muttered. A warning light flashed. The pod shook. A shot had been fired and barely missed. The next one wouldn't. We can't fight that thing, Ryan said, frustrated. We're not armed. Karina stared at the panel, then slowly reached into her suit and pulled out the pendant. She snapped the back off. Inside was a small glowing shard dot. She placed it into the emergency slot on the pod's console. What is that? Ryan asked. Alien tech, Karina answered softly. Stolen from the Cradle. It's unstable. But it will give us one shot. One shot for what? She looked into his eyes. To send the truth. The shard activated. The screens inside the pod lit up. Energy surged through the communications system. The Cradle map appeared again, now linked directly into human transmission channels. Ryan understood. We can send it to the fleet directly. Yes, Karina said. But it will burn the pod's core. After that, we'll be floating. Ryan hesitated. Another blast rocked the pod. Smoke filled the cabin. He looked at her, then nodded. Send it. Karina pressed the command. The data from her pendant, the Cradle plans, the stolen human DNA research, the star path of destruction, all of it streamed into the communication relay. It pulsed blue, then shot into space like lightning. Transmission complete. The system spoke. Then the engine died. The pod slowed, drifted. The enemy ship circled above them, watching. They know we sent it. Ryan whispered. Karina stood and grabbed her blade. Ryan looked at her. You still think we can fight? She stared at the hatch. No, but I think they're coming, and we don't hide anymore. The hatch was forced open a moment later. Smoke spilled in. The black armored figure from before stepped inside. The red mark still burned on his mask. You have interfered long enough, he said coldly. Karina stepped between him and Ryan, her body tense, eyes glowing with rage. The figure raised his weapon, but then a loud ping echoed through the pod. Ryan looked down. The beacon was blinking again. Then a voice came through the comms. Unidentified pod, stand by. Human battlecruiser Nova Strike locking on. The enemy turned his head sharply. A bright flash lit up the clouds. Two massive ships appeared. Above human warships, cannons charged. Fighters launched. The enemy hissed. Karina smirked. Within seconds, the hunter ship turned and tried to flee, but missiles followed. A blast rocked the sky. The ship fell from view in flames. Inside the pod, Karina and Ryan fell to their knees, the cabin spinning slightly. Then the hatch opened again. This time, it was a rescue team, fully human. A medic rushed in. We got your message, the captain said. We've seen the data. The Cradle, it's worse than anything we imagined. Ryan stood slowly. You believe us? The captain nodded. We're broadcasting it across the command fleet. The operation's been authorized to stop the Cradle permanently. Kirina looked up. Then it wasn't for nothing. No, the captain said. It was everything. They were helped out of the pod. Medics checked them while the ship's engines hummed with power. Kirina sat quietly, staring out at the stars. Ryan sat beside her. You still don't trust them, do you? He asked. She didn't answer right away. Then she said, I trust you, Ryan smiled. That's enough for me. As the rescue ship climbed toward orbit, Kirina leaned her head on his shoulder. Tired, safe. Together they watched the stars above. Far beyond. The Cradle waited. But now, it wasn't a secret anymore. And the galaxy had just learned what one human and one alien girl could do together.